champion, I need some trophies. I can drive the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it deep. I ain't choose the gang trophy. I'm a champion, I need some trophies. I can drive the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Extra Point. I'm Lauro Antonio, joined by Ben Curse. And today we have a lot of great topics for you. Obviously, we're not going to get into the Pro Bowl games because who cares about the Pro Bowl? What we care about is that we got other headlines to talk about other than the Pro Bowl. New head coaches in Frank Reich to the Panthers, Sean Payton back on the sidelines with the Denver Broncos, and then we have some first-time head coaches in DeMeco Ryans, who I think will turn the Houston Texans around in a heartbeat. Ben, how's it going?
I'm good, Lou. How are you?
Doing great, but first off, let's start with recapping Championship Sunday, and we start with the Niners and Eagles game. So, Ben, I'll tell you, Brock Purdy got hurt, and now there's going to be quarterback controversy in San Francisco in the offseason. But I'll tell you, this Niners team is built to win if you look at the roster. But I do think that Trey Lance is still the future. Brock Purdy, I'm not sold on his hype. I still have the utmost faith in Trey Lance. But overall, the Niners just looked lost. Nothing to blame on Kyle Shanahan and all that, but the Niners just got exposed, although the defense just looked rusty out there, Ben.
Yeah, this game obviously wasn't as good as I expected it to be. I thought this was going to be a really good game, really close game. And basically, once Brock Purdy went down on the unfortunate injury that happened by Hassan Reddick, who had an absolute monster game defensively for the Philadelphia Eagles, I had pretty much a decent feeling it was over. They had to go to Josh Johnson, who wasn't going to do much. I wasn't expecting much. I mean, the guy only played a couple snaps this season, and I really think for him, he came into a really tough situation in Philadelphia, NFC title game, Super Bowl on the line, and Christian McCaffrey, I think, did everything he could to at least keep it close for a little while in that first half. And then right when Johnson fumbled the ball right before halftime, I knew it was over. 21-7, down 2 scores. Purdy didn't seem like he could come back. And if he did, he came back and he could not even throw the football. He, on his shoulder, when you get something kind of like the shoulder injury that he had, it's almost like, you're like a decoy at this point. And when you have a job in the line going to the Super Bowl and you can't throw the football. I mean, there's not really much you can do, which is unfortunate. So, you look at it lower. The Niners this year had the worst quarterback luck I think you see. Starting with Trey Lance, he goes down out for the year. Then you have Jimmy Garoppolo. He goes down. He's out for most of the remainder of the year. Then you have this kid in Brock Purdy who third stringer, coming in and absolutely putting on a great Cinderella hype, real story run, getting them to the NFC title game. And then he goes down. He's out for the remainder of the game. So now they're down to their fourth quarterback on the depth chart. And, I didn't think that was going to happen for them. But if you're the Niners, I mean, you still have a really good, ready roster as of right now. They'll be forces for years to come. And, what happened. The Eagles, congratulations to them. They were, deservedly probably the best team in the NFC for most of the season. Nick Sirianni and that staff did a really good job getting that team prepared week in, week out. They got a really good running game, which is a really good boding well for a team to make the Super Bowl. We'll talk more about the Eagles and kind of the ways that they can exploit the Kansas City Chiefs. But I think Jalen Hurts as a whole, this playoffs has been very subpar. I think it could be from the injury that he suffered against the Bears later on this season. But I think really that he didn't have to do a whole lot in this football game the last week against the New York Giants. So Once I knew that the Eagles were up by a couple scores and I knew that the 49ers really couldn't throw the football, I'm like, essentially, all they just got to just do is control clock and, run it for a lot of that second half. And I really thought that Isaiah, I'm sorry that we have to bring up this tough game that you had to suffer through last weekend, but we have to a little bit here. The second half of the Niners Eagles, I just thought that was just kind of there. It's just kind of dull. It was boring. I just thought that from pretty much from the start to the end of the game, it was all controlled by the Philadelphia Eagles. So, congrats to them. Well deserved to them. And Philadelphia now, we'll see if they can get that trophy after the Phillies were in the World Series last year. Man, is it the year of, instead of Isaiah, the year of Philly? I hope not, but we'll see.
Isaiah, welcome. What was your thoughts on this NFC Championship game that your Niners had to endure? They got shellacked, but to be honest with you.
Wow. I'm kind of glad that this day has finally come that we're doing this show because I've kind of had like the feelings from the game festering inside of me for the past like 4 or 5 days. So I'm kind of ready to get it out. It's good to see you guys. Hope all
It's been
of
a
you
while.
guys hope all of you guys had a great week. I know the week started bad for me, but it ended pretty good. With the whole Kyrie news, which we'll get into like on Sports Weekly some other time. But in terms of this game, I felt like I was living in a literal nightmare. Not just the game itself, but my personal life as well, because I don't know if you guys know this, but on the weekend, on Saturday, I literally had a really intensive crazy bout with the flu, and so I was basically stuck in bed for a lot of the game, and I was not feeling well at all. And not just that, but from the moment I turned on the game to the moment I turned it off, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Not just that the Niners defense was getting just shellacked by the Eagles, but my guy Brock Purdy, who I've been raving about, ever since he was at Iowa State, and I was so happy that he became he was drafted by the Niners, and he became our quarterback, and he was having this Cinderella storybook run. It all came crashing down to an end when he suffered that elbow injury in the third play of the game, and he could just not throw anymore. And that was basically when I knew that the Niners had lost the game, because if you watched the game, once Purdy went out, it was over. Johnson couldn't really do anything. And I swear, I don't know why Josh Johnson is even in the NFL. I mean, that dude has got to be the most sorry quarterback I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this dude, I swear, it takes 10 seconds to release the football from his hand. Like, that's why he was getting hit. Like, he was getting ample amount of time to throw the football. It was just that he was taking so damn long that by the time he made up his mind about where the ball was going to go, the Eagles defenders were already closing in on him. So, and then once he went down in the early in the second half, it was basically over. I mean, I thought the Niners had somewhat of a shot when they tied it up on an incredible run by Christian McCaffrey. But when Johnson went down, it was basically over, because you had Purdy, who could not throw the football, and McCaffrey was the emergency quarterback. But all the Niners could do was run, and the Eagles just put like 10 men in the box to stop the run, knowing that the Niners posed virtually no threat whatsoever in the passing game, and all they could just do was run, and the Eagles would just stop the run. Niners would go for it on fourth down. They would not get it. And then Philadelphia would have great field position, and Philadelphia would just keep scoring and keep increasing its lead. But they knew that, it was basically like the scoreboard probably said it was like 24-7, or it was 31-7, but it was basically like 90 5-0 at that point. We knew the Niners just didn't have a chance. Like, I felt like, not only were we robbed of what would have been a great football game, but I felt like that the Niners were robbed of a great opportunity because they just didn't have a chance once Brock Purdy unfortunately went down. And, I honestly wish that the game would have been rescheduled because I felt like, now that we know Purdy's injury, how severe it is, it wouldn't have made an impact. But I felt like, to put America through that whole crap show that was what it was on Saturday or on Sunday afternoon. I mean, it was just unfair from the time Purdy went down to the time the game ended, and everybody knew that, hey, you might as well turn on something else because this game would not be what it is. And I also blame Kyle Shanahan. He's got a lot of responsibility to take for Brock Purdy's injury and for what happened, because why are you blocking Hassan Reddick, who has 16 sacks this entire season? Why are you blocking him with Tyler Kroft? Like, that made no sense whatsoever to me. Like, if you got to block that guy with a legit offensive lineman, you can't block him with a backup tight end, because we all know that Hassan Reddick will just run over Tyler Kroft like he did on Sunday, and that got Brock Purdy injured. I thought that was a terrible decision by Shanahan. I know he placed some of the offensive linemen on other people, but every Niners fan knows this, that the key to the game, one of the biggest keys to the game, was stopping Hassan Reddick. That guy was one of the most ferocious pass rushers on the Philadelphia Eagles this entire season. So he had to be one of those guys that you just said, okay, I'm putting all my attention on to try to hold him down. Guys like Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, you're going to put some attention on. But one of the guys you definitely got to focus on is Hassan Reddick. And for them not to put any attention on him, for them to just put a backup tight end, not George Kittle, but a backup tight end to block Hassan Reddick, that was just coaching malpractice by Kyle Shanahan. And he is one of the guys responsible for not only Brock Purdy's injury, but also for the Niners' loss, and him not challenging the Devontae Smith non-catch. I mean, that made me go like, what are you doing, Kyle Shanahan? Like, you're getting paid all this money to be the head coach. Yeah, your game planning is great, but you're also paid to be the head coach of the football team. You got to manage the clock. You got to, learn a challenge when you have to challenge it. That gave me Nathaniel Hackett vibes when Kyle Shanahan just didn't challenge that call, because we all saw it on television that he clearly did not catch the ball. He did not maintain the catch throughout the entire process. And even Greg Olsen was saying, why are you not challenging it, Kyle Shanahan? And I just think, like, Kyle should have at least called a timeout, because it's the first quarter. Yeah, I know he said he didn't want to lose his timeout early, but who cares? It's the NFC Championship. At least call your timeout and take a look at it. And for him to not do so in that situation was coaching malpractice. And then I think the other decision that was very costly for Shanahan was Kyle Shanahan and the Niners had Josh Johnson, their fourth string quarterback, in the football game. And, you're down, you had just scored, Eagles, with a long drive, they scored a 14-7. You get the football to start the second half. Why are you trying to be aggressive to try to score after you had gotten a first down on a pass to Deebo Samuel? Why are you trying to be very aggressive to try to score in that situation? You're getting the ball back anyways, but instead you try to be aggressive in that situation where you didn't have to be. And then Josh Johnson turns it over, bobbles a snap. He doesn't pick it cleanly. Eagles get it back. And then Philadelphia scores. And that basically was all she wrote for the 49ers. So I think that, the Niners got truly unlucky in this football game. But, Kyle Shanahan also has a big piece of the blame as well, because of all the terrible decisions that he just constantly made throughout the entire game.
And Ben, you had a question for Isaiah?
I do. Isaiah, I like to say I know that the Niners had a really unfortunate ending to their season, but they had a fantastic season, I think, on many levels. I know that we might have some of this kind of part for the remainder of the show, but now with you kind of talking about the team and kind of where the state is, with the injury to Brock Purdy, and of course we'll talk about the Tom Brady retirement, which of course was a potential landing spot for Tom Brady was the 49ers. Where do you think the Niners go from here? Do you think that Trey Lance now and Brock Purdy kind of compete for next year's quarterback job? Do you think I know Shanahan was saying this this past week of they don't think that they have Jimmy Garoppolo in their plans for next season. So what do you think?
Well, about Jimmy G, I certainly wouldn't bring him back because I just feel like that number one, he will get a lot of offers out there since a lot of teams need starting quarterbacks. And, Jimmy G has certainly proven to be a worthy starting quarterback candidate. And he also, the thing about Jimmy G is that if you do bring him back, it's got to be on like a veteran minimum contract because let's face it, the Niners don't have a lot of money to spend this offseason. So if you do bring him back, it's got to be on like a $5 million or $6 million type of a contract. And also, I wouldn't bring him back just because, I feel like he's going to get a not a big time contract, but he's going to get a bigger contract than the Niners would like to fit him in type of a contract. And also he gets hurt too easily. This guy has only been able to stay healthy like 1 or 2 seasons in his entire career with the 49ers. And, your best availability is your availability and your best ability is your availability. And the 49ers, like they've had so much trouble with, quarterback injuries. First it was Trey Lance, and then it was Jimmy Garoppolo, and then it was Brock Purdy. Jimmy G, I don't think you could bring him back. I think Trey Lance probably is a starter now just because I feel like Brock Purdy's going to have Tommy John eventually, whether he's trying to delay it or not. I think he's going to have it because the UCL in his elbow is just completely torn. So I think for me, if I was advising Brock Purdy, I would advise him to have the surgery right now because I think that if you have it right now, it's a bummer you missing the entire season next season, but it gives you a chance to rest up, get more strength into that elbow, and then try to resume your career, the season after, because we know the Niners have seen enough of great stuff out of you that they're going to keep you, whether it's the backup or as a potential starter. So I think that Purdy should honestly go ahead and have the surgery. I think right now Trey Lance is the starter. I was hoping, Ben, personally for Aaron Rodgers because I think that Aaron Rodgers would make the Niners just dynamic on offense, with all the pieces and what Rodgers could do, but like he's got a $60 million contract, and there's no way the Niners can fit that in with Debo's contract, McCaffrey's contract, Kittle's contract, Warner's contract. Like you just can't fit that in. So I think right now it's probably like Trey Lance's show, see how he does, and then you probably have to bring in like at least 2 competent quarterbacks to back up Trey Lance, because I think that if Brock Purdy does have the surgery, he's definitely going to be out for the entire 2023 season. Couple candidates that I would try to go after if I'm the Niners for depth purposes is number one, and I'm being serious here, I think the Niners should honestly try to go after Zach Wilson, because I think if you're going to, since when you have Trey Lance as your starter, Zach Wilson, I feel like kind of does similar stuff to what Trey Lance does. Both guys have great arms. Both guys are really good at throwing on the run. And I feel like Zach Wilson needs a change of scenery, and he's going to be very cheap to get, and he's on a rookie deal. And I think that, him having experience with Mike LaFleur as his offensive coordinator will really benefit him if he does go to the Niners, because he can just sit back, Shanahan can go and develop him. And Zach Wilson won't be in the major market that is New York with all the bright lights, and also he has experience in the offense, and he could serve as like a great depth piece just in case something were to happen to Trey Lance if he starts football games for the Niners in 2023. And we saw in the NFC Championship game that you can't have enough good quarterbacks at the helm, whether it's Lance Purdy or whatever. Like, you got to have as many quarterbacks to back up just in case the starter gets hurt, or even the starter gets hurt and the backup gets hurt. So if I'm the Niners, I would try to trade for Zach Wilson and definitely sign a couple more like competent backups to back up the quarterback.
Anyways, guys, here.
Isaiah, one more guy that NFL Live was talking about, potential for a candidate for the 49ers, Jacoby Brissett. I think Jacoby Brissett could be an interesting move as a backup for the San Francisco 49ers, a guy that actually didn't have horrible stats last year. He's a perfect guy in a situation like last game where a guy can come in. He's not going to flash you. He's not going to wow you by any means, but it could definitely give you like a stopgap if needed. I mean, of course, when Tom Brady was with us and he had the suspension for Deflategate, one of the games that Jacoby Brissett was in was one of the games of the suspension, and it could be a starter as well. So something like a guy like that, Isaiah, I think would be a great potential replacement. If Trey Lance had to be, moved, the injury or something like that, at least you have kind of that backup situation there. So.
Anyways, now we will talk about the AFC Championship game here. The Chiefs beat the Bengals. Talk about a thrilling win for the Chiefs on a Harrison Butker field goal. Patrick Mahomes was playing on a bad ankle, but you know what? He powered through, and he was a trooper for that. And I can't wait for the Super Bowl next Sunday. As you all know, Super Bowl 57. We will not pick a winner on today's show. We are going to pick a winner for Super Bowl 57 next show. So that next show of the Extra Point is going to be all Super Bowl and all that. And we might have to throw in some head coaching news as well. Just want to let everybody know that our Super Bowl show will be next week. So,
Isaiah,
Ben,
are we going to do a pregame show on Super Bowl Sunday, or do you want to do it before that?
Most likely on Saturday, but I don't know because I'm going to be out of town from Wednesday to like Saturday, so it really depends on what time I get back. But I mean, you and Laurel could do it if you guys want to.
Yeah,
I'll be out of town Friday into early Saturday morning, but I'll be back Saturday, like afternoon, nightish. So Laura, if you want to do something, by all means, just feel free.
Yeah, we're gonna plan on doing an Extra Point show for the Super Bowl prior to the Super Bowl. So we're all saving our picks for that. But as for the game itself between the Chiefs and the Bengals here, Ben, I have to say the Bengals played hard. I mean, I like the effort that they showed, but at the same time, the Chiefs want to pay back from what happened last year in the AFC Championship game. But you know what? If you talk about this the new quarterback rivalry now, like, which is this like the next Brady Manning in some sorts, Burrow Mahomes, or Allen Mahomes? You have to say Joe Burrow versus Pat Mahomes is up there. Joe Burrow has beaten Mahomes the previous 4 times, and he finally loses a game against Patrick Mahomes. I do think the Cincinnati Bengals have what it takes to win a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow will eventually get that Super Bowl ring on his finger and deliver Cincinnati its first Super Bowl championship in the team's history, which I could see happening at some point in the near future because the Bengals are that good. But what I think what really went wrong, Ben, was that penalty that was that hit out of bounds when the ref threw the flag and Ron Torbert. I don't think Ron Torbert loves officiating Bengals games because the Bengals are pretty much winless when Torbert officiates their games in the playoffs.
Well, yeah, Laura, I mean, this game was much better. It lived up to the hype. It being the night game, it made it obviously worthwhile. In terms of my overall reaction to this game, Congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes and that team. Andy Reid, now that he's going to be playing his former team in the Andy Reid Bowl, which should be pretty cool, pretty interesting, to say the least. I got to say this, and I like the Bengals a lot. I liked in terms of where they've grown in terms of from being one of the worst franchise run teams to everything like that. But I was thinking about after they beat the Buffalo Bills, and I'm a firm believer in the Bengals. I really kind of like what they've been doing. I think they talked a little too much during the week. And I think that if you're looking at a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, given that little bit of energy, that little bit of bulletin board material, especially going back to Arrowhead, calling it Burrowhead and stuff like that, I'm just thinking to myself, you're going into a really tough situation where, they're going to hear it. It's honestly like, you're asking for it in a little bit for it to happen. And I think that the Chiefs really took that and used it as fuel to fire. The Bengals were undefeated against them. Mahomes Burrow, which is going to be a great fun rivalry, I think, for years to come, especially with Allen there in the mix. I feel for Herbert, man. I mean, Herbert's such a great quarterback and stuff like that. But who knows if he'll be able to even get into one of those games with the way that all those three quarterbacks in the AFC are. I think that between Allen, Mahomes, and Burrow, those are the top three in the AFC for years to come. But that's another story for another day. But yeah, I think that there was maybe a little bit too much out there for the Bengals. They got a little over cockiness throughout the week. And I'm not saying it translated over to the field, but I think that Mahomes, especially on a bad, foot or whatever, ankle, um, I mean, there's really not much else you can say about it. I mean, the guy was playing in like 20, 25-degree weather and bad ankle. He threw for like 280 plus yards. Kelsey had a great day. I think Marcus Valdes-Scantling was their MVP of that game. He extended a lot of drives. Of course, had that big touchdown, I believe, in the third quarter, which was by far my favorite Mahomes play throughout that night. And then the Joe Burrow 2 interceptions. I think the first one was on him. I think that was a little forced. The second one, I just think that was a bad play call. And I think it was 3rd and 3. I don't understand why you're trying to go deep there if you're Joe Burrow, but I think that's more of a play calling aspect on there. I think you just had to keep on going, marching down the field. So especially with the way the second half did, I think the Bengals did much better than they did in the first half offensively. But what I do have to say is I think that the running game for the Bengals, I thought the Chiefs did a really good job against the running game for the Bengals. I didn't really understand why the Bengals went a lot shotgun compared to like they kind of did against the Bills, where they went a lot more under center, ground and pound, opened up more of the play action. And they used that great, especially with their offensive linemen, kind of 3 of those hurt. I was surprised that they didn't use that more against the Chiefs, but I think that the Chiefs did a really good job game planning that. So I guess that was that. But yeah, the Chiefs, of course, moving on. Patrick Mahomes is going for potentially number 2 Super Bowl coming up next weekend, next Sunday. And I think if you're the Bengals, you have a long road ahead. You have a really good future ahead. Zach Taylor's the great coach. And, of course, like you said, Lower, that play of the game was right at the end. I feel for that guy. I know it's a tough play. He made a dumb play. He openly admitted to it after the game, post game. BJ Hill, who was one of his defensive players, is right there post game wise because I know how horrible he felt, how bad he felt. And obviously to have that happen, I thought a lot of people wanted overtime. I think that with the new overtime rule changes like that, stuff like that, I think we were all ready to go for that. And of course, unfortunately, it didn't happen. But that game was much better. It lived up to the hype, and I think that for those two teams, that's going to be a rivalry for years to come, especially with all the games coming right down the wire. It's absolutely much watch, grab your popcorn type of games for years to come, and we were able to see another showcase of it this past week.
Isaiah, talk about this Bengals Chiefs game. Was a great football game that we watched, but that penalty in the end really cost the Cincinnati Bengals. You got to be encouraged with where the Bengals are. I am very excited about where this Bengals team is headed in the future, despite this loss. I really am a high believer in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Those guys are going to be the staple of the Cincinnati Bengals future. I just think that the Bengals, Isaiah, they need to just beef up on the offensive line. And And that's what I think. And I also think that they need to be better defensively, especially on the secondary part. I mean, if you talk about areas where I think the Bengals need to improve on, for me, it's basically offensive line and defense.
Zach Taylor choked this game away, and choked away the Bengals' Super Bowl berth in this football game. You know, it came down to the last possession for the Bengals when they had the ball. They had all the momentum, and they had just stopped the Chiefs. It was a tie game. I believe there was like a minute something left in the game, and that was going to be the drive that sent you to the Super Bowl. All you just got to do is get into field goal range. You get into field goal range right there. I guarantee you Evan McPherson makes that field goal to send you to Super Bowl 57. But I felt like Zach Taylor was over aggressive in that last possession. He got too nervous and he started being over aggressive. I don't understand why in that situation you don't run the football at all. All you just do is pass. And like Ben mentioned in his comments, I don't know why the Bengals decided to go shotgun. I would have liked to see a lot more plays under center, especially since the Bengals, they were deep in their own territory in that situation. I thought that they should have opened up with a couple of runs to Joe Mixon, because when they actually ran the football with Joe Mixon from under center, the Chiefs could not stop him. The Chiefs could not stop him whatsoever, and I don't think the Chiefs would have been able to stop Joe Mixon in that situation. You run it a couple of times, get about 5-6 yards, it makes it easier for you. You run the football, make it easier for you, so you don't have to get into like 2nd and 16 or 3rd down and 20 when you absolutely then have to pass. I thought the play call selection from Zach Taylor was absolutely putrid, in that last possession when you just had to, play your game, call the game that you've been calling, and then you would have gone to the Super Bowl, because I don't think the Chiefs defense would have been able to stop Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals offense from marching their way down the field and marching their way to Super Bowl 57. So I was disappointed in that for Joe Burrow and the Bengals. But as far as the Chiefs are concerned, and Ben, you and Loro might not like me for saying this, but Patrick Mahomes is on his way to toppling Tom Brady as the GOAT. This guy has been in the league for 5 seasons now, and he's been to 5 AFC championship games. He's been to 3 Super Bowls in his last 4 seasons, and the guy is on the cusp. If he wins the Super Bowl against the Philadelphia Eagles, this dude will have 2 Super Bowl championships in 5 seasons. And you couple all of that with all the accomplishments that he's had, passing yards, touchdowns, all that stuff. This dude he's going and he's like shooting straight up there for Tom Brady as the GOAT. And, the thing that really impressed me with Mahomes, not only in this game, but throughout the entire playoffs, was his toughness. I had watched Patrick Mahomes play for a while in the NFL, and he's playing with a high ankle sprain. Remember, Jimmy Garoppolo missed the same missed a lot of time because he was dealing with the same injury that Patrick Mahomes was dealing with. And for Mahomes to not miss any time whatsoever, and not only that, but play at a high level, playing with that high ankle sprain, that's very, very impressive stuff. And if he can somehow, some way win the Super Bowl playing on that high ankle sprain, he's going to have a couple more weeks to rest up and recover. I think, it definitely puts him in that conversation as, can Mahomes topple Brady as the GOAT, which I guarantee we will have if he, in fact, does win another Super Bowl. Can he overtake Tom Brady as the GOAT, as the greatest of all time, with all the stuff that he's done in his career? And he's going to have at least 10, 15 years left in his career.
Absolutely. Pat Mahomes is just that good. But we have a debate here about what shall we call Super Bowl 57. Shall we call it the Andy Reid Bowl? or the Travis and Jason Kelsey Bowl, or both? For me, I'm going to call it both because it's Andy Reid versus the team that he coached for in his first 12 years, and then you have Travis and Jason going head to head. Andy Reid both coached Travis and Jason before. So Isaiah, what do you call this Super Bowl? The Andy Reid Bowl or the Kelsey Bowl?
I call it the Andy Reid Bowl because when I think of these two franchises, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs, I think of one man and one man only, and that is Andy Reid. Because Andy Reid coached in Philly for like 14, 15 years, and he has won a Super Bowl with Kansas City. He is very important to the city of Kansas City. When you think about the Kansas City Chiefs, you think about two guys, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. He is the architect of that team, and he was the architect of the Philadelphia Eagles for a long, long time. And for me, when I think about this matchup between the Chiefs and the Eagles, one man comes to my mind, and that is Andy Reid. So I'm calling it the Andy Reid Bowl.
Next up, and Ben, what do you call the Super Bowl? The Andy Reid Bowl or the Travis and Jason Kelsey Bowl?
I agree with Isaiah. I think it's the Andy Reid Bowl. I mean, when I think of both teams, Andy Reid really had a good, respectable career with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I think that he's going to have a lot of great memories. With the Super Bowl, of course, having these two teams together. So, yeah, I agree with Isaiah. I would say the Andy Reid Bowl.
Anyways, now we're going to get into some headlines. We have a lot of NFL headlines to get to, but the first topic is we're going to talk about Tom Brady's retirement. I know we are very excited to talk about Sean Payton as the new head coach of the Denver Broncos, and it could turn out to be a great trade for both parties. We'll get to that thought in a minute here, but I'm going to start with TB12. I mean, I sound emotional by saying this. Once a Patriot, always a New England Patriot. Tom Brady has given the New England Patriots 6 Super Bowl titles. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer, which I have no doubt in my mind he will get in his first year of eligibility, no doubt. And Tom Brady led Tampa to a Super Bowl that I felt I felt happy for him, but it was weird seeing it because he didn't do it to the New England Patriots, which I would have wanted him to give New England a 7th Lombardi trophy. But at the same time, Tom Brady has meant a lot to me as a fan and also to the New England Patriots. Even though he did good things in Tampa, I will just always remember Tom Brady as a New England Patriot. I've loved the New England Patriots all my life. I've loved Tom. I think Tom will always be my quarterback, like Ben would tell me. But Ben, what do you have to say about Tom Brady retiring? And at this time, it's for good.
Well, my overall thoughts were waking up on, I believe it was Tuesday.
I woke up to that news, honestly, Ben. Yeah, I looked up and I watched the video and I was like, once a Patriot, always a Patriot. Thanks for the memories, Tom.
When I woke up, I got a notification from my family, from my dad and my brother's group chat. And essentially, my brother and my dad were up before me, so I'm like, all right, just usually check my phone anyway. And they said, Brady's retiring. I'm like, whoa. So I obviously go on Twitter, go through a lot of stuff, and the first thing I see was the Brady Instagram video. And overall thoughts were, I think it was really well spoken by Tom. I think that the first time around of his first, last year, about a year ago at this point now, I think it was a little more rush, I guess you could say. I don't think it was really Tom's fault, but you remember, the tweet from Adam Schefter saying, Tom Brady's retiring. Jeff Darlington says, everyone's like, whoa, Tom Brady hasn't said anything about it. And then finally, Tom Brady put on Instagram or whatever and on Twitter, I'm retiring and stuff like that. And I thought that, I'm just like, are you sure? Kind of like, okay, we'll kind of obviously see how it goes. And then, I think, I think it lasted, 50 or 40 days. And I'm like, does it surprise me that he's coming back? I don't know, maybe here and there. Because if you think about it, the first time he had one more year left on his deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He did not have anything ready to go post retirement, so you have to think that he was just kind of being at home with his kids, and of course with Giselle there. Well, of course they were going through kind of a tough go of it. I just thought that, it was either he was going to be more with the family or obviously try to go one more year and play football, which I think he decided to, go with the route and go with one more year of football. And then, so when I was reading this one, it was just more of, I don't know, it's just sound more genuine. And it just pretty much sounded more to me of like, wow, this one, like really hit me. Um, you know, obviously kind of saying I think it was maybe a pre-recorded because apparently I read some reports that this could have been something that he said a couple days or weeks ago. But obviously it got let out, leaked out to everybody to obviously know on Tuesday. But yeah, it's just sounded really emotional. I started to get a little emotional at the end of it. Obviously when he said thank you for everybody and thank you for my teammates and I love you all. And then of course kind of just looking through all the memories from this past year, when he was saying I'm retiring, then he kind of stopped for a bit and then he said for good. I'm like, that's what I just needed to hear from pretty much from him. Kind of saying this, I'm doing the retiring. I think that there's more now to life for Tom. I think that, he kind of looked at the rest of the market, out there. I think there were some teams, it's crazy that he led the league, I believe, in passing attempts this season at the age of 45. And I was fortunate enough to be able to see him one more time in Tampa Bay this year. I didn't know how much left he had left and how many more years he had left, but I was able to see him for one more time, and I was fortunate to see that happen. And like Lowy, like you mentioned, I always love the guy. He is the greatest of all time. There's no debates about it. And he's going to be a Patriot always to me. I know that I put a video on Facebook. If you guys want to check it out, I know Lower you did. Isaiah, if you want to take a look, it's just something that for me, kind of the way my reactions about it, kind of overall everything about it. And in terms of everything about will he retire a Patriot, I know Robert Kraft and stuff about it. Um, I think for me personally, they should just do a full-on day of celebration with for Tom Brady. I don't know about the retirement in one day. I don't know if he really wants to do it. But I think they're going to do a really big one-day thing about it for him. Um, and so, yeah, I think it's more now with his family. I think now with him being a single dad, Giselle is out of his, life now. So it's really kind of on him to focus more on the family, move on from the game that he loves so much. And now he has a $375 million broadcasting get coming along with him now, too. That's more than any type of money that he made over the course of his 23 career in terms of making, salary wise. So I think that Tom Brady's going to be in good spirits, for retirement post life now compared to what he had before. So congratulations to Tom. The first carousel domino of quarterbacks has officially fallen. And that is the GOAT by all means. And thank you, Tom. I love you.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be a great analyst, Ben, on Fox. I can't wait to hear him in the booth next year.
Yeah, you were right, Laura, that he was going to retire because I think pretty much everybody else besides you was saying that he was going to play for next season. You're like, I think he's going to retire. I think he's going to retire. And you were right. So I'm not surprised about this news. I probably should have looked more into that. He retired last year. That thinking to myself, why would he come back to play one more year and then retire again after this season? I think it was pretty much a year by year type of thing. And I think that he retired for good and he made a really good, clear statement from his Instagram video. So good for Tom. He's accomplished more than anything. And time for retirement life for good.
What about you, Isaiah? What was your reaction to this whole Tom Brady retirement thing?
To be honest, I was really stunned by it. When I woke up and I saw the news, I couldn't believe it. Because I thought that, okay, Giselle is no longer in the picture. She and Tom split. And remember, Giselle was always the one that was pushing Tom Brady to hang up the cleats and spend more time with the family. So when he came out of retirement and him and Giselle went through that divorce and with her not being in the picture anymore, I just thought, oh, okay, Brady Brady divorced Giselle because he wanted to come back and play till he was like 50. He wanted to play more football. He can't get away from the game. This is the thing that he know and has loved for so long. He just can't get away from it. And so I thought that, okay, we're gonna have another offseason of Brady free agency, and where's Brady going? Is Brady going to the Raiders? Is Brady going to the Titans? Is he going to the Niners? Is he going to the Jets? I mean, I was looking forward to all of that, and then I just saw the news on, I believe it was Monday or Tuesday, that he had retired. And Tuesday, yeah, that he had retired, and I just couldn't believe it. And I am honestly still in shock to this very day and time that he has retired. It still hasn't sunk in yet. Brady, I just can't believe it, because Brady is pretty much all I have known and loved throughout my time watching the NFL. I have not watched the NFL without Tom Brady playing. So it's gonna be like weird next season not seeing him on the football field, and not seeing him on the football field ever again, because that's, I think, how not only me but Ben, Loro, and pretty much a lot of people have been. Just when you think about the NFL, you think about football. There's pretty much one guy that comes to mind, and that is Tom Brady. And I think we all thought that Brady would just keep playing and keep playing and keep playing. I don't think we ever thought that we would see the day that Brady would actually retire. I mean, when those words just came out of my mouth, I still can't believe it. So, congratulations to Tom Brady. What an exceptional and unbelievable career that he's had. 7 Super Bowl championships, no doubt in my mind that he's the greatest of all time. And, he did a lot, in his career. He did a lot for football, and the NFL will not be where it is right now without Tom Brady. And definitely he's going to get in on the first try of his Hall of Fame election. And, it will definitely be very worthy for sure. And, we're gonna miss him. We're definitely gonna miss him. I thought that when he played his final game against Dallas, that I could kind of see that. Okay, you guys remember when Peyton Manning, had that last season where he just looked lost. He looked like trash. I mean, this season was the kind of like that season for Tom Brady, where it was just out of nowhere. Because remember, last season Brady was phenomenal. He had led the Bucs to the playoffs, to the division title, and then he led them to an amazing comeback over the Rams, and he was balling out. He was, in the MVP race, and then, just like Manning, this year just came out of nowhere. He struggled really badly. He was throwing some uncharacteristic interceptions. He was looking lost out there on the football field. The Bucs were struggling. Brady was struggling. And then against Dallas, after pretty much the first 5 minutes of the game, you just kind of sat there and looked at, like, the Bucs just didn't have a chance in that game, that Dallas was more talented, and that Brady just kind of didn't have it anymore. And, it was just a really shocking sign to see. But, I honestly still expected him to continue his career, because I thought, like, the appeal of playing for his hometown team, the team that he grew up watching, the 49ers, who need a quarterback, I thought that would be really appealing for him. But I guess he was just very exhausted from the season, and he was just, very exhausted from all the stuff that happened with Giselle, the stuff that happened from the Bucs season. And I just think that, he realized that, okay, I had that, my Peyton Manning last season, and, I just don't have the skill set to be able to win, and not only win, but win at a high level in the NFL.
I have a couple more things I wanted to say before we go into the next thing. I think now, and Isaiah, I know that you're saying, it's obviously it's sad to see Tom Brady go, but it's sad to now kind of see that the old era of quarterbacks is now kind of past us. And we're fortunate enough now to kind of go into this new generation where we have great quarterbacks. And I think that Brady was kind of seen, obviously, after losing to Dallas, kind of the AFC title game of, man, like, if I'm retiring, I'm going obviously in great hands where we have the new generation of guys to come. And I think one of the biggest things about a lot of these good quarterbacks up and coming is they're running type quarterbacks. And I think that for Tom, guys like Peyton, guys like Ben Roethlisberger, guys like Phillip Rivers, they were so good for so long, but they were pocket passing type quarterbacks. And I think that in this day and age, a lot of the defenses are faster. They play with a lot more speed. And I think that at this point in time, I think that Tom Brady Sr. was on the podcast, or he was talking this week with Mike Greenberg. And I guess Tom Brady was talking to his dad about how it doesn't feel like he wants to get hit a lot as much as he used to be. And that's understandably so. He's 45 years old. I mean, I don't blame the guy. I mean, it's crazy enough that he's gotten hit for so long. It's just taxing on your body and getting, hit after hit after hit. I just think that that's obviously a huge factor. Another reason why he has moved on, and deservedly so. So I think between generations of quarterbacks, I think he's seen of it. It's going to be harder for him enough to win for Super Bowls at this point in time in his career. So I think he's just seen that as okay, moved on. And his family too. I think his family is great in Florida as it is. I don't think that if Tom Brady as a single dad was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go out to Vegas and, kind of do that stuff. And I just don't know how he'd feel anymore, with being out there. I know that he'd be obviously with Josh and stuff like that, but I just think that with him in their free agents type of state, he really had to really think of, okay, is it worth going and moving out to another place or just kind of staying where I am? Michael Jordan, 2 teams. I think he always wanted to be like MJ. He did it the right way. 2 teams, fully in like MJ was with the Bulls. Brady fully in was with the Patriots. And, of course, a little bit left of his career with the other team, with obviously with Washington, of course, with Brady with the Bucks. So, like I said, Isaiah, I know you're surprised. I'm surprised at the timing of it. I'm not surprised the way that it happened. And I think that, I was going to ask you guys, because I know people are like, oh, is he going to actually try to come back for another one? Do you guys think this is done? For me, this is it. I think that there's a lot of writing now on the wall. I think there's a lot now to this. I think he's now more genuine. He's more pretty much bought into this. I think that there's more ahead of him. I think that there is, unless that like a Drew Brees. I know that somebody calling Drew Brees apparently last year for, okay, we have a guy that's been injured. We'll give you a call. Do you want to come out of retirement and play when you're like 48 years old? And Brees is like, no. I mean, I think that's the only way something drastically happens. I think this is personally it, but I just want to know how you guys feel. Is this fully it?
I think it is, but anyways.
Well, before we move on, I just want to give my 2 cents on this. I think it is, but here's the thing. I won't rule out him coming back again when the season starts and, you see guys hitting each other on the football field and having a lot of fun, throwing touchdown passes, and, one team winning, one team losing. And that itch is going to be very real because remember, a lot of people that retire from sports always say that is that first season with you not playing, it's always the toughest because you see guys out there doing the stuff that you were used to doing and having fun. And you're over here just sitting back, relaxing and not doing it. It's always the toughest part. So I think that this is it, but I wouldn't rule it out because, that itch is going to be very strong comes next September.
Next up, we will talk about Bill O'Brien as he is now back with the New England Patriots as their offensive coordinator. We also have to talk about what's next with Joe Judge and Matt Patricia. I think with Joe Judge, what's next, he's going to have a different role at the New England Patriots, probably on the special team side of the ball. Matt Patricia may stay with the Patriots in a different role, maybe co-defensive coordinator, or maybe he might not, or he might be a defensive coordinator for the Cardinals. Say if the Cardinals even hire Brian Flores as their next head coach. So Ben, you and I have waited for this. Bill O'Brien is back with the New England Patriots after 2 years at Alabama. I'll tell you, I cannot wait to see Bill O'Brien get Mac Jones back on track and make him the quarterback that you and I expect him to be. Mac Jones is definitely our future quarterback.
This move, I think, helped save some of Bill Belichick's future with the New England Patriots. I know people could be like, "Well, why are you talking about this?" Bill's great and great. He is always great, but I think a lot of people question could Bill win without Tom? And of course, now it's like with Tom, of course, now without retirement. This is kind of Bill Belichick's show, of course, before he, of course, moves on at some point in his career. To say, okay, Tom, you're of course sitting now at home. This is kind of my show to kind of shine and see kind of what I have left in the tank to potentially bring this Patriots team to a Super Bowl. And, but I'm not saying that's the case, potentially for years to come. We'll see what happens. But I think that with the move that I think Kraft essentially looked at this situation, and Kraft's really been saying, ever since Tom left, we want to get back into making the playoffs consistently year after year after year. And I think that the way that the last couple of years have been, there's been some disappointing finishes in here and there. This past season was not a lot on Mac Jones. And I know people could say, well, he regressed a little bit. He did. I'm not going to, of course, deny anything like that. But the biggest thing was the play calling. And it was pretty obvious kind of from the start. I didn't understand the situation of the play calling before the season. And I still obviously don't understand the situation, of course, now, even. As we're talking. So this Bill O'Brien move, I think, was coming. It was imminent. It wasn't surprising. It's a guy that Bill knows really well from past. It's a guy that Tom Brady knows and he likes playing with really well. It's a guy that Rob Gronkowski. I know that Gronk had some news about that really well. And Julian Edelman. 3 key guys from the Patriots dynasty years, Brady, Gronk, and Edelman, had high things to say about Bill O'Brien. And I think that if you're a Patriots fan like you are, Laura and me, this is really good. This is high optimistic news. And I'm not saying that Mac Jones is going to all of a sudden turn around and throw, 30 touchdown passes next season. But all I'm asking for is the progress is going to be a bigger leap of progress than we saw from last year. And I think that there will be a progress because Bill O'Brien's coming from a coaching staff from Alabama. He knows a lot of the scheme there. He plays a lot of 2 tight ends type of sets, which Mac Jones likes. And Bill O'Brien's going to let Mac cook. He's going to let Mac Jones throw the football more on a consistent basis. And I think that you saw some glimpses, of course, in that Bills game with Mac Jones throwing quite a bit in that game, kind of thrown under play action. And you can see that there's hope there. You just got to add some talent around Mac Jones. You got to add the protection. And you just got to add some pieces around, maybe try to get the number 1 receiver. I know I put a Twitter thing out there. I said, we'll have to see about Jacoby Myers because I think that Myers is going to – I want him to come back, Lauro, but I think that there's going to be a team that's going to want to pay him as a number 1, which I think that there's going to be overpay, which means that I don't think we're going to keep him. And Nelson Aguilar, if you take those 2 guys off the books, then you have money to go out and get a guy like a trade up. I know that my dream scenario would be a guy to trade up for T. Higgins from the Cincinnati Bengals. I think that's going to be a lot of people's list, even though I think that Cincy will keep him. And then go after a guy like, say Flowers from BC, or get a true guy and get 2 guys to help out Mac Jones. I know Jerry Jeudy, of course, who would play with Alabama, would be very interesting. Of course, we have to see about that. But I think that if you have Mac Jones and Bill O'Brien now, there's now a direction I can see that with this team. And with JoJo's and Matt Patricia, you guys are probably great guys out there, but I am so thankful that you were not calling offensive plays this next coming year for the Patriots. I don't know if you saw Laura, another thing too. Bill Belichick had to start calling plays offensively mid part of last season, and that took away from his coaching at the special teams this past year and at the defense. You just saw just the whole mismatch and everything kind of just. You just saw a lot out of play stuff that you're just very unlike Belichick like. It's because the play calling, just everything was kind of out of place. Now you have Bill O'Brien steadily on the offense. Bill Belichick can go at different parts, maybe at defense, just strictly on defense, and you get a guy at special teams, probably with Joe Judge there. Then you're at
But
something.
Joe Judge is not going to be the head guy for special teams. He's not the special teams coordinator. He'll be special teams assistant under Cam McCord.
Right, yeah. But I'm just like, why did they pretty much not have anything like this last year? And
I think Judge stays, Ben, but I do think Matt Patricia might get reassigned to a different role, maybe on the defensive side of the football, or maybe he won't be with us next year.
I wouldn't be surprised, Laura, too, if he was like in like an advisory role because I think Bill's just so really tight with him that he could probably still be within the organization, but I just don't know in a specific coaching matter. But my overall understanding with this is I love the hire for Bill O'Brien. I think this really helps Mac. I think Mac's excited about this, and I think that a lot of guys from, you know, free agency and trade wise, they'll obviously see this now as a destination where, okay, we have a really good play call in Bill O'Brien who came from really high class in Alabama. And, you know, maybe to help this guy out, this kid, I guess you could still say it, year 3, kind of gets the potential I think that many people want to see for the Patriots. And I'm really having high hopes for Mac Jones. This is the year, Laura. If Mac Jones can have a very good season, I think that he is the long-term answer. Now, don't come at me with any type of, oh, you know, Mac Jones is not going to be earned for next year, which I think he's going to be here for years to come. But if Mac Jones regresses mightily for some other reason this year, he has, after this year, he has I think his contract with his rookie contract, I believe, ends after next year. This is a make or break year.
Fifth year option.
Then you're going to have to start kind of taking in some questions. And I think that you don't want that type. I think that's the worst case scenario, but I think the best case scenario is here, and that's getting the guy him, and that's Bill O'Brien. So I'm happy for it, and I'm really excited to see what happens.
What about you, Isaiah? What is your thoughts on Bill O'Brien coming back to the Patriots? And what do you think what's next for Matt Patricia and Joe Judge?
I think all is normal in New England again. I think you and Ben should definitely be super excited and happy about this move. My thing is this. If you're Bill Belichick, Bill O'Brien was at Alabama last year. He was not under contract in the NFL. Why did you not bring him back last season and make Patriots fans all over the globe suffer through the terrible offensive performance from this past season? Why didn't you bring him back last season? I mean, I think Bill O'Brien would have definitely been a huge addition to the Patriots last season, and he would definitely been a great help to their offense from this past season as well. I mean, Bill O'Brien is a way better play caller, game planner, and play designer than Matt Patricia and Joe Judge combined. Those two should never, ever, ever, ever have any reason to call offensive plays whatsoever. I mean, this guy, Matt Patricia, he coached defense for the majority of his life, and now he's over there, or he's coming over to coach offense. Like, it didn't make sense from the beginning. But I do agree with you guys. I think this is a great move for the Patriots. Bill O'Brien knows the modern day offense. He's a competent offensive play caller, and offensive coordinator, which is something the Patriots needed. He's a guy that is great with young quarterbacks, knows how to develop quarterbacks. And also he's a guy that, you know, can put in some of the stuff that Mac Jones was successful at Alabama, and he can put it into New England. So I love this move for the Patriots. I think that I felt like this is a job-saving move for Bill Belichick because, like you mentioned, Ben, I think a lot of not only Patriots fans, but just football fans in general, and also the sports media, were starting to question if Bill Belichick – if he was still a competent coach, because he was making some really idiotic decisions, you know, in the past few years. And I felt like Belichick was getting lazy. You know, I felt like he was getting lazy because you could see it after Josh McDaniels went to the Raiders. He never did any search for an offensive coordinator whatsoever. He just went ahead and named Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, who are his buddies, to call the offense. And I think that, you know, I think this kind of a season that the Patriots had, especially on offense, really helped wake up Belichick and, you know, tell him that, hey, you know, you actually got to put some effort out there and actually, you know, interview some competent offensive candidates. You can't just be giving it to your boys out there because they don't deserve it, and your team is going to stink if you keep doing the stuff that you've been doing, and that is giving your buddies jobs that they aren't qualified for.
And I think ownership, too, also stepped in, Isaiah, as well, when essentially they saw the situation this past offseason with the coaching staff. And I think that if Bill didn't bring any offensive-minded type coaches in, I think that Robert Kraft would have lost it. I think he really loved. I think pretty much he would have. And I'm not saying that he was going to fire Bill Belichick on the spot because I think him and Bill are really close. But I also think that they're going to pretty much have a one-on-one conversation and be like, "Listen, what are we doing here?" I think that Kraft essentially told him, he's like, "Go ahead, we got to kind of start going off and starting winning some playoff games like we're accustomed to in the past." And good for Bill obviously to own up to his mistakes from last year.
Absolutely. But anyways, guys, the Grand Slam hire of the head coaching cycle belongs to the Denver Broncos. And guys, I'll tell you, who said that Sean Payton should be the head coach of the Denver Broncos? It was Isaiah. He wanted that move for the Denver Broncos because it was going to get Russell Wilson back on track. And I also think that the offense of the Denver Broncos last year was a mess with Nathaniel Hackett. Nathaniel Hackett was the real problem last year, but we have to say that we don't know. But there's a good chance that Nathaniel Hackett will reunite with Aaron Rodgers with the New York Jets. And Aaron Rodgers really loves Nathaniel Hackett, and I kind of knew why Nathaniel Hackett is the Jets OC is because he's good friends with Robert Saleh during the time in Jacksonville. I wasn't surprised. I was I wasn't shocked at the move, but people overlooked Nathaniel Hackett as an offensive coordinator. As if you look at it, Hackett has had great numbers as an offensive coordinator with the Packers and with Jacksonville. But now Sean Payton is the head coach of the Denver Broncos. He still will bring in an offensive coordinator with him with the Broncos, but I do think the play calling responsibilities with Denver belong to Sean Payton, an offensive mastermind that's going to help Russell Wilson get back on track. Russell Wilson didn't have a good year, but the blame wasn't really on Russell Wilson, but it makes the Denver Broncos relevant. As far as is it going to close the gap on Kansas City in the division next year? A little bit. I think it does. If you look at the AFC West, I still think the top two teams in that division are Kansas City and the Chargers. Herbert, Mahomes are 1-2 in that. But I do think Sean Payton will make the Broncos a good third-place team, but a good wild card team. I don't think it necessarily means that the Broncos will leapfrog Kansas City in the division, because I look forward to seeing Sean Payton and Andy Reid go head-to-head next year when the Chiefs take on the Broncos. Those are going to be fun matchups. Isaiah, I'm going to have you go first on this. Your wish was granted with the Denver Broncos hiring Sean Payton, and you wanted this move for the Denver Broncos.
I want to go ahead and give the Denver Broncos an applause for hiring Sean Payton, because this was the man that you needed to hire. I like Jim Harbaugh, I really do, but you needed an offensive mastermind, a guy that was great at coaching quarterbacks to come in and not only fix Russell Wilson, but fix the entire offense in general. And you needed a guy in Sean Payton who knows how to win, because he's won a Super Bowl before. He knows how to change the culture, and that's what you needed in Denver. And when I think about this move, this is a grand slam hire by the Denver Broncos. This is a earth-shattering move by the Denver Broncos. This is a move, and Ben, you and Laurel might not agree with me on this, but this is a move that puts the Denver Broncos right there in the AFC West with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that when you look at the Denver Broncos, the last couple of seasons, the thing that the Denver Broncos have been missing, or two things that they were missing, is a superstar quarterback and a superstar head coach, and now they have it in Russell Wilson. I think the reason why the Denver Broncos had so much struggles last season was not because of Russell Wilson. Obviously, Russell Wilson played bad last season, but I'm going to cut him a lot of slack, because I never liked the Nathaniel Hackett hire. I thought that hire was a bad hire by the Denver Broncos. This guy never called plays when he was in Green Bay. All this guy did was pretty much sit in the booth and look pretty out there for the TV cameras. Like, that's literally all he did in the booth. When you are the Green Bay Packers and you have Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur, who is the primary play caller and offensive game planner and play designer, you're obviously going to look good because you have one of the top quarterbacks in NFL history, and you have one of the top coaches or a top young offensive coaches in the NFL. So of course you're going to look good. So, and when you look at Nathaniel Hackett's history, right? This guy, when he was actually calling plays, when he was actually designing the plays, and when the offense was actually his own offense, it stunk. I mean, Jacksonville was one of the worst offenses in the league. Prior to that, he was with the Buffalo Bills, and it was under Doug Marrone.
Yeah, it was under Doug Marrone, and Nathaniel Hackett was. If you talk about it, Isaiah, Nathaniel Hackett offensive system that he's bringing to the New York Jets is a West Coast style offense.
It's a West Coast style offense, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like the hire by the Jets, is because I don't think Nathaniel Hackett's a really good offensive coach. I don't think he's I think he's a really bad offensive coach. I think that when you look at his history of coordinating offenses, it hasn't been good. His offenses have typically been in the 25 to 20.
His offense in Jacksonville back in 2017 was ranked 5th in the league. Like, based on the running game, good ground and pound attack that he implemented. You gotta not underestimate Nathaniel Hackett as an OC.
Well, but here's the thing, though. I don't think that Nathaniel Hackett, I think the reason why the Denver Broncos last year went out and got Nathaniel Hackett was because to get Aaron Rodgers. I think that's why they went out and got him. And then once Aaron Rodgers didn't come, it was like, oh gosh, you're stuck with Russell Wilson. And Nathaniel Hackett truly got exposed last season as a putrid offensive mind. And now, and when Nathaniel Hackett was on the hot seat, I was clamoring from October on for the Denver Broncos to hire Sean Payton, because Sean Payton is a tremendous offensive mind. We know he's a proven offensive mind. We know he's a proven winner, and he's worked wonders with quarterbacks. Remember when Drew Brees went to New Orleans, Drew Brees wasn't the Hall of Fame quarterback that he ended up being in New Orleans. Drew Brees was a broken down quarterback who was coming off the major shoulder surgery, and he was having consistency issues, and Sean Payton worked a miracle with Drew Brees to get him to the point that he was. And I believe that Sean Payton can work miracles with Russell Wilson. And let's face it, Russell Wilson at this point of his career, and Drew Brees at that point of his career when he was going to New Orleans from San Diego, Russell Wilson is light years better than that Drew Brees at that time. So I think that this is a great hire by the Broncos. Sean Payton's going to come in there and establish a no-nonsense championship culture for the Denver Broncos. I think he's going to have Russell Wilson playing up to par as a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He's going to utilize the run game better. The defense, whomever he hires, I trust him to hire a coach that
or he might get Ejiro Evero, who I thought was great, who did a good job last year with that defense.
Yeah, I think he should keep him because he knows that defense and he worked wonders with that defense. And the Broncos defense was really good last season. The reason why they sucked was because of the offense. And Sean Payton going in there, you got to pay a hefty price, to get a coach that is the caliber of Sean Payton. Him coming in there, I believe he's going to fix the offense, and they have a superstar quarterback in Russell Wilson. And I think that this move just put the Denver Broncos right on course with Kansas City as the top 2 teams in the AFC West. And it's definitely going to be really fun for the Broncos and the Chiefs to go at it next season. And I think right now, if I have to pick a favorite, I would honestly pick the Denver as the favorite.
Oh my God.
And here's why, Loro. Here's why. I don't trust the defense of Kansas City. If you go by
Oh,
position,
come on.
they played great
He's
against
not. He has a
Cincinnati.
point. He has a
But
point.
here's the thing:
I
if
have a
you go
point. Why? Even though the Broncos hired Sean Payton, my point is that Kansas City is still the better team in the division. They're still going to be the favorites to win the division next year. I still think they
Yeah.
will win the division.
Well, they might still win the division, but
Yeah.
if you go position by position, right? Patrick Mahomes obviously better than Russell Wilson. Sean Payton and Andy Reid, I feel like are like in the same category. Both guys have won a Super Bowl. Both guys are great offensive minds, but it comes down to one thing: the defense. And Broncos defense, massive advantage over Kansas City's defense. And we'll see what happens, but man, it's gonna be fun and. Great for Denver to hire Sean Payton, because remember the rumors were in the last week or so that they were, souring on Payton. The coaching chaos or the coaching search in Denver had been thrown into a chaos. DeMeco Ryans rejected them. Jim Harbaugh rejected them. I mean, they were going to go hire David Shaw, and for them to go out and pull that bunny out of the hat and hire Sean Payton, I mean, it's truly a great.
Hey, Isaiah, I'll tell you something about David Shaw. Speaking of him, he and Sean Payton are buddies. How about David Shaw as the Denver Broncos offensive coordinator?
I think that would be a good hire, because here's the thing. David Shaw would not be putting his offense in Denver. It would be the Sean Payton offense in Denver, and we know the Sean Payton offense works and is a great offense, and that's the offense the Broncos will be running. So I am really psyched the Broncos hired Sean Payton, and I love this hire for the Broncos. It's a grand slam hire.
It's going to make the Broncos even better. And Ben, what is your takeaways on Sean Payton as the new head coach of the Denver Broncos? I really think, Ben, I think they can have a chance to challenge Kansas City in the division, but at the same time, I think that the Kansas City Chiefs, to me, are still better. They're still the team to beat in the AFC West over Denver, but Denver will slightly be better with Payton, and I do think he'll make Russell Wilson be great again. I think the defense was good for Denver. I mean, they should have not traded Bradley Chubb, but I do think that this offseason, the Denver Broncos are going to be very active this offseason, and don't be shocked if there's some players I know on the Saints, the Broncos and Saints will make trades, but don't be shocked if Cam Jordan joins Denver and reunites with Sean Payton.
My overall reaction is this. Them getting Nathaniel Hackett was setting for a single. This signing was essentially rounding the bases, like Isaiah was mentioning, and going for that home run grand slam. This is a bang type moment, as Mike Breen would call in the playoffs. I mean, this is a absolute move that the Broncos needed badly, because this was a team that was legitimately getting mocked at last year to be on primetime game after game after game, because they had a ton of them. And I think that now when you have a guy in Sean Payton out there that knows what exactly he's doing, like Nathaniel Hackett, no, nothing to take away from Nathaniel Hackett, but Sean Payton is a great coach. He's been around a lot of good teams over in New Orleans, and now he gets to bring that culture over to Denver, where he gets to work with a guy in Russell Wilson, who I think is going to be the comeback player of the year next year. And I'm not saying that just to say that. I think really for him, it wasn't all Russell Wilson that for his struggles. I think he just needed to find a guy that he can fully believe in, that he can use to the right abilities. And I think that for him, Payton's worked with a great in Drew Brees. He could go and work with somebody, Russell Wilson, that he knows that he could work with a lot of good guys around. Javonte Williams, who was out for a little while last year, was a big part of their offense. They have Jerry Jeudy, of course, presumably if he's not going to get traded. And then they have Cortland Sutton. They have some pieces around. So it's not like Russell Wilson's going to a bad situation. He has a perfect situation. He just needed the coaching, and now you have it. Obviously, Isaiah, I agree with you. I think the defense from Denver was really good, but they just were out there almost every single time last year in the game that they just got outworked. And they got tired out. So this is a great move for Denver. I don't know specifically if it, in terms of, I have to specifically see what the Raiders do at quarterback. Of course, if they got a guy like Tom Brady going, I think that division would just been absolutely loaded. But think about this one. I know Aaron Rodgers probably won't leave Green Bay, but hypothetically, let's play a little fun game here. If Aaron Rodgers essentially,
There's a chance, Ben, that Aaron Rodgers goes to the New York Jets, which I could see happening.
so if Isaiah, I don't know how you would feel about this, but for some odd reason, if Aaron Rodgers went to Vegas, right? Now, how would you feel about potentially? Do you feel like Denver would be right up there to close the gap with Kansas City? Or if Aaron Rodgers was with the Raiders, how would you feel about that?
I think that I still don't trust their defense. That's if they got Aaron Rodgers, they would be great offensively, and the AFC West would be so much fun to watch if that were to happen. But I still don't trust their defense. I think that if you had to rank the teams, if Aaron Rodgers went to the Raiders, let's say, and with Peyton going to the Denver Broncos, I think that it's still Chiefs and Broncos, and then you have the Raiders behind them, and the Chargers. I think they could still make some noise too. So that division would remind me of the NFC or the NL East. It's going to be a bloodbath. And it's going to be an absolute dogfight with each team just fighting, or all the teams fighting against each other. And I could see a scenario where all four teams make the playoffs just because of how stacked they would be and how great, especially offensively, they would be.
I think the Raiders might be going young at quarterback. I also think if you look at it, Isaiah, I did predict Aaron Rodgers will probably be a New York Jet at this point. He'll be in my division.
Well, I mean, yeah, we'll see what happens.
The reason why I say that is because of Nathaniel Hackett being there.
Yeah, that you could definitely see that as a possibility. But
those guys like Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner, they want Aaron Rodgers in New York.
Yeah, I mean, he would be great with the Jets. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, if he went to the Raiders and you have Rodgers to the Raiders,
look, Davante Adams just wants Aaron Rodgers. He wants to play with Aaron Rodgers again.
Well, but Laurel, think about this though.
I would love
Rodgers goes to the Raiders with Adams, and you have Denver with Peyton and Wilson, and you have Mahomes and Reed in Kansas City, and Herbert in with the Chargers.
With Staley.
With
Brandon Staley.
You guys know how they hyped up the AFC West this past season? If that were to happen, if all that were to happen, the AFC West would be a 50 times bigger and better division than it was hyped up to be this season. The hype around the division would be amazingly enormous.
And deservedly so. But in terms of, for me, Laura, Sean Payton was a great hire for the Denver Broncos. And for Bronco fans out there, I'm happy for you guys. I think they're going to have a much better year. And like I said, mark my words, Russell Wilson, comeback player of the year next year.
Anyways, here, we're going to make a statement here. We're going to type this up on our banner here. This debate, we're gonna ask our fans this question right here.
And Laura, while you're typing that, the comment Isaiah put about the rumors of Alvin Kamara, where did you see those rumors?
I think I saw it on Twitter. I think it was a hypothetical thing that came up.
Oh, okay.
But
I was about to say, imagine that.
Well, there's also some rumors that Michael Thomas, who is unhappy in he could be joining Sean Payton. Imagine Denver with Wilson, and then you have Alvin Kamara in the backfield and Michael Thomas.
Look, you still have Javonte Williams coming back, man. Javonte Williams is gonna be your number one back.
And you have him. Remember the Niners, Christian McCaffrey,
and you have Sutton too. I like Cortland Sutton. And Judy too, but I don't know if Judy will stay because of Peyton. But Sutton is. I said Cortland Sutton is the number one guy, and then Judy is going to be good. I think Judy would flourish under Sean Payton.
Yeah, I mean, but think about a running back duo of Javonte Williams and Alvin Kamara with Russell Wilson at quarterback. And then somehow they managed to bring in a disgruntled Michael Thomas to add to Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. I mean, good Lord.
And then you need a good tight end, too. I don't think they go after Taysom Hill.
What if
Sean
they,
Payton.
What if they added D-Hop?
Well, because I think the Saints are kind of in a rebuild type of mode now.
Yeah,
So-
I think Michael Thomas they're trying to cut. I think he.
Yeah,
they
the,
cashed
Sun-
him,
I think I would love to see Michael Thomas in Denver, but there's a question for you. Has Denver elevated past KC in the AFC West? Fans, you can chime in on that, but Ben and I don't think it is, but Isaiah may
it's
think
close though.
it's going to be very close next year. I can't wait to see Andy Reid and Sean Payton go head to head next year when the Chiefs take on the Denver Broncos. That's going to be some fun games here. But now, guys, let's talk about this next head coaching hire, or we'll stay in the AFC West before we talk about Frank Reich. The Cowboys fired Kellen Moore as their OC, but who picked them up? The LA Chargers. You know, I think Justin Herbert is going to like working for Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore is going to be calling great plays here with the Chargers and help Herbert elevate his game even more, guys. I felt like Kellen Moore got scapegoated in Dallas. I just felt like that the Cowboys should have not fired him. He got scapegoated, Isaiah, if you agree with me. Isaiah, what was your thoughts on this? Kellen Moore fired by the Cowboys, and then he immediately goes to the Chargers and serves as their OC. And I think he's going to help elevate Justin Herbert even more.
Well, let me just say this. We talked about Sean Payton going to Denver. Well, the Chargers' loss was the Broncos' gain because I don't think Brandon Staley should still be the head coach. It should be Sean Payton because he wanted that job. He wanted the Chargers' job, and they were too cheap to fire Brandon Staley. So now Sean Payton, the guy that wanted the job, is stuck on the other side. So good luck with that, Chargers. But in terms of this move, I think Kellen Moore definitely got scapegoated by the Cowboys. I like Kellen Moore. I think he's a really good young offensive mind. He's definitely going to help elevate Justin Herbert in that Chargers offense, and that offense will be a lot more aggressive than they've been the last couple of seasons under Joe Lombardi. So I think I like the hire by the Chargers. It was very smart of them to scoop up Kellen Moore right away after he got let go by the Chargers. But for the Cowboys and co, if you're listening, man, I feel so bad for you because guess who's going to be calling plays now for the Dallas Cowboys?
Mike McCarthy.
It's going to be Mike McCarthy, and that's another team that should have went out and got Sean Payton. You know, like I think Sean Payton would have been a great
Mike
fit.
McCarthy, Isaiah, will still hire an offensive coordinator.
He will, but he's going to be the guy primarily in charge of the offense, designing plays, calling the plays, and just doing all that stuff on offense. You know, I mean, I don't really like that move for Dallas. I think Moore got unfairly scapegoated. McCarthy, you know, I don't know. He hasn't called plays in like 4 years, so I don't really know how that's gonna work for the Dallas Cowboys and if they're gonna have any success. But it's a great hire for the Chargers, bad loss for the Cowboys, and I think both of these two teams lost, however, with Payton going to Denver because Sean Payton should have been the head coach of either one of those two teams.
What about you, Ben? What was your thoughts on the Chargers hiring Kellen Moore after he was fired as the offensive coordinator in Dallas?
I like this move for the Chargers. Kellen Moore's a young guy. He can help out elevate Justin Herbert. I think that Lombardi was a decent guy, but I think that Moore has the experience. He'll use Herbert and that plethora of weapons that the Chargers have in different formations. And I think it's a big loss for the Cowboys because not only that they have McCarthy calling plays, which a guy that hasn't called plays in maybe for at least a couple of years, but they didn't have a decent backup plan at all. They didn't have essentially, okay, if McCarthy, maybe I guess he could be like the plan B to call plays, but essentially moved on from Kellen Moore with what else? And they didn't have anything else. So they essentially like, okay, we're just going to have McCarthy and just call it a day. I don't know. Essentially for something like that, um, you just kind of have to feel like, kind of just hoping that something's going to work out for that, and just it's almost like spinning a wheel and kind of just laying on a number and just hoping that it fits. That's kind of what the Cowboys, I think, are doing, and just kind of hoping that McCarthy just kind of starts getting that offense going early on and working it out. So, but in terms of the Chargers, good move for the Chargers and Kellen Moore.
Absolutely, it is. But this next headline we're going to talk about here is the Carolina Panthers made a home run hire in hiring Frank Reich as their next head coach. I mean, I wanted Ken Dorsey to coach the Panthers just because I wanted that young head coach and young quarterback to kind of start a new era and all that, because in today's game, it's a passing league. But anytime that Frank Reich is available, the Panthers did that. And David Tepper, I applaud him for hiring a big-name head coach. And Isaiah, I applaud the Carolina Panthers for this. I mean, Frank Reich is going to make the Panthers better. He is going to be a great play caller on offense. He is going to pick the quarterback of his own. It's not going to be Sam Darnold or P.J. Walker. It's going to be someone in the draft that I think Frank Reich is going to work with. That defense of Carolina is still good, but it could be better. Isaiah, tell me your thoughts on Frank Reich as the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers.
I love it, and I actually predicted it when we were making our picks for the NFL.
That's another one you got right.
Yeah, I know. I'm 2 for 3 in the head coaching hirings so far. The only one I didn't get which I should have seen it coming, was DeMeco Ryans going to the Texans, because I thought the Texans were going to do something stupid like they always do and hire Chad O'Shea as their coach. But thankfully they didn't and hired DeMeco Ryans. But back to the Panthers, I loved it because I feel like the Panthers needed a veteran offensive-minded coach. Their issue last year was not the defense. The defense was very filthy. It was very good. The special teams was very good. They needed an offensive mind who can come in and develop quarterbacks. And for Frank Reich, I'm so happy that he's getting another opportunity to be a head coach. I think, Loro, you and I both agree. He was scapegoated in Indianapolis. Indianapolis looked sorry after they fired him when they put in Jeff Saturday, and it just went downhill from there. But Frank Reich is going to work wonders with either Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud or
Will the Panthers are picking 7th or 8th. I'm kind of thinking the Carolina Panthers, they should, and I think they should get Will Levis.
Yeah, Will Levis, I think he'll be good. He'll be good because he's an NFL pro style quarterback, and
I think he could fit Reich's system.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think he definitely could fit Frank Reich's offense. And Frank Reich's going to be able to change the culture in Carolina, which is something that they definitely needed to be changed. So I think all around, I really like this hire. I think that Frank Reich's going to do great stuff for the Panthers. I don't know if they'll be able to win right away. It depends who they draft as the quarterback.
Well, you talk about the NFC South. It's wide open now that Tom Brady retires. Right now I pick the Carolina Panthers to win the NFC South because Frank Reich is going to change that culture in Carolina.
Well, but Loro, it depends who they draft. If they draft Anthony Richardson, because he's a project. He's like what Trey Lance was. He's not a really good passer right now. He's very raw. If they draft him, that tells me that they're building for the next for 2 years from now. Or 3 years from now. But if they draft Will Levis, that means that they are in it to try to win it right now. And with that division, how it is, it's so wide open. The Saints are kind of in a rebuild. They might cut Michael Thomas. Alvin Kamara is a free agent. the Falcons, they're kind of stuck in the middle. The Panthers are there. The Buccaneers might most likely will be starting Kyle Trask next season, which I'm kind of excited about. But it's wide open. It's anybody's division, and I think Frank Reich could definitely. He has a chance to make the playoffs in year one with Carolina, but it depends on who the quarterback is. That's the big.
That's why right now I pick the Panthers to win the division next year because of Reich.
Yeah, I could see it. I could definitely see them making the playoffs and pulling what the Philadelphia Eagles, or not the Philadelphia Eagles, the Jacksonville Jaguars did. This
kind of like that, kind of that way. But Ben also says he liked the Frank Reich hire, which we all did in Carolina, and he thinks Sam Darnold and the rookie will be competing for the starting role. I don't know if Frank Reich is high on Sam Darnold, though.
I'll say this, though. I think he can make Sam Darnold better than he's been in the NFL, because
if the Panthers want to stick with, if the Panthers want to give Sam Darnold another shot.
Yeah, because the thing is that Sam Darnold, I think he's talented, but he's been given a raw deal. He's been in really bad offensive systems with bad offensive play callers with Adam Gase. I mean, that nobody can succeed with Adam Gase. And then he had that Ben McAdoo system. I mean, Ben McAdoo made Eli Manning look terrible when he was in New York. So he hasn't really had the opportunity to play with a great offensive coach. And with Frank Reich there, I think Frank Reich could develop him, and he will have success under Frank Reich if he's indeed the starter.
If it's Sam Darnold or Matt Corral, they will have a ton of success with Frank Reich.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And also, like the rookie, whomever they draft, he's in great hands with Frank Reich at the helm of the Carolina Panthers.
I think Frank Reich's going to be calling plays, but he also made his first hire. Deuce Staley's going to join him in Carolina, probably as offensive coordinator and assistant head coach.
I like that move. I like that move for Deuce Staley because he's a rising young offensive mind, and it adds another offensive mind to the Carolina Panthers coaching room, and also it adds a guy that he's very good with running backs, and I think the Panthers running backs will really benefit with having Deuce Staley as their coach.
Oh yeah, Chuba Hubbard going to thrive under him, but I wonder who Frank Reich will pick as Panthers defensive coordinator, though. I think he probably will bring Gus Bradley with him, kind of some of the Colts people with him. He's probably going to bring some Colts people with him, like Gus Bradley.
The guy I would love is Ejiro Evero from the Broncos, but I don't know.
Evero might stay with Peyton.
Yeah, but if he doesn't stay with Peyton, he would be a great hire because he's young and he's very energetic and he's very fiery. And that defense, they would be really, really good.
I'm talking about Isaiah, like the Frank Reich's Panther staff will be some people with him in Indy and some people with him in Philly.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you could see Gus Bradley. I think you could see, potentially Ben Johnson, the quarterback's coach. He did a great job developing Jalen Hurts, and he could be a guy that comes in there and be the offensive coordinator and quarterback's coach, and he could come in there and have a great hand.
The Panthers' offense is going to be the Frank Reich offense.
Yeah, they will. But I think Ben Johnson, you can have him to be.
Well, Ben Johnson is the Lions' offensive coordinator. Ben Johnson withdrew his. Ben Johnson is in Detroit.
I thought wasn't there a Johnson with the Eagles or something?
No, I wasn't sure about that, but we have to talk about Vic Fangio on this show here. We got to get to him next before we talk about
Brian Johnson.
Ben Johnson's with Dan Campbell, and Ben Johnson's done a great job in Detroit. But before we talk about the other coaches and all that, we got to go to Vic Fangio, your boy, now in South Florida, going to help lead that defense. And I think the Miami Dolphins made a grand slam hire to hire Vic Fangio. But I'm telling you, when his Dolphin defenses, they're going to be getting after Mac Jones. They're going to be getting after Zach Wilson and maybe potentially after Aaron Rodgers. That's how good Vic Fangio is as a defensive coordinator. And I think he's going to work very well with Mike McDaniel.
This is a great hire for the Miami Dolphins, even though, remember, Vic Fangio was contemplating getting out of his deal. Remember that for a couple of days, there was a lot of uncertainty before he actually committed to joining the Miami Dolphins. He actually had talks with the Niners and the Broncos, I believe, about going back. But
oh my God, I thought it would have been weird for Vic Fangio to come back to Denver.
Yeah, I thought it would have been weird for sure because you get fired as the head coach, and then 1 year later you come back.
Because Sean Payton was building his all-star staff. Like Fangio would have been his. If Sean Payton were with the Chargers, then I would have seen Fangio as the defensive coordinator there.
But I thought the Niners made a mistake by not bringing back Fangio. I think that, like I get the scheme news, 3-4 defense versus 4-3. Who cares, man? This is one of the best defensive coaches in NFL history, and you pair him with Kyle Shanahan, a tremendous offensive mind. Like, that would have been a great hire by the Niners. But Mike McDaniel got a great defensive coordinator. The defense was one of the parts that was lacking last year for the Dolphins. We know their offense, is going to be good. The defense needs to be up to par with the offense, and I think it will. And I think Vic Fangio will definitely help it. He's got some pieces to work with. He needs more help, though, on defense, but they do have some pieces to work with, like Bradley Chubb, Christian Wilkins, and also I'm forgetting.
Well, they also have Xavier Howard, too.
Yeah, Xavier Howard as well. Like, they have a guy that can cover. I expect Bryce Callahan from the Chargers to go to Miami, and watch out for Kendall Fuller, too. Some people that Vic Fangio has connections with.
Yeah, Vic Fangio, I think, is going to be great down there, but we have to also stay in the AFC West for a minute here. I don't know if I got your thoughts on Nathaniel Hackett as the offensive coordinator for the Jets under Robert Saleh. Both of them were buddies back in Jacksonville. I kind of knew why that happened, but this tells me that it might mean Aaron Rodgers is coming to the New York Jets.
I don't think it means that. It does mean, however, the Jets are going to swing for Aaron Rodgers. That's what it means. It means the Jets are going after Aaron Rodgers. You don't make this move unless you make a commitment to try to swing after Aaron Rodgers. And Woody Johnson is not patient. He is not patient at all. I think that's why he pushed out Mike LaFleur before Robert Saleh wanted to. I think Robert Saleh really wanted to keep Mike LaFleur, but Woody Johnson, I think, said, no, we're going to get rid of him. We're going to try to get a coordinator that can help us land Aaron Rodgers and get a quarterback, franchise quarterback. And if Robert Saleh, Loro, doesn't make the playoffs for the Jets, I could see Woody Johnson pushing him out because he is not patient whatsoever.
He's on my hot seat heading into the next season. But if Robert Saleh gets fired, he's going to be Johnson's scapegoat.
You want to know something, Loro? There's been only one head coach in Woody Johnson's tenure that has made it to year number 5 and a second contract with the Jets. And that one guy was Rex Ryan. Exactly. So Robert Saleh better make the playoffs this season, or else I think he's gone. I think that
scapegoated.
He's going to be scapegoated. Exactly.
It's not really his fault, though, for why the Jets haven't made the playoffs the first 2 seasons. I don't blame anything on him.
I don't. They don't have a quarterback, but, at the end of the day, the owner is very non-patient. That's why
Woody Johnson's like one of the worst owners in the league.
He is. He's next to Dan Schneider and Jerry Jones, but they need to go get Aaron Rodgers. They better get Aaron Rodgers because if they don't, the owner's going to be pissed. And if they don't make the playoffs, I think that Robert Saleh's time in New York is going to come to an end.
Yeah, and Ben says, Vic Fangio coming to our division, Loro. It's not going to be fun.
Hey,
what's that?
I'm looking forward to the Belichick versus Fangio defensive chess game. Like, that's going to be
when the Patriots play the Dolphins.
Yeah,
Belichick defensive chess.
Yes, that would be epic for sure.
And then he also says Woody Johnson has these eyes on quarterbacks. Rodgers, Carr, Jimmy G. Lamar Jackson, I think, is staying in Baltimore.
They do need a star quarterback, but I think the reason why, and I don't think that Lamar Jackson would fit in Nathaniel Hackett's offense because you at least need to pass well in that offense, and Lamar doesn't really do a great job of passing. He needs an offense that is tailored towards the run, but they're going after Aaron Rodgers. I think that's the worst kept secret.
And I also predicted Derek Carr, I think, is going to be a Saint because of his connection to Dennis Allen.
Yeah, I mean, they do need a competent quarterback. You can't start Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston because he doesn't stay healthy at all.
Yeah, he doesn't. But anyways, now let's talk about this next coach. I mean, I knew this was coming. I wanted DeMeco Ryans to come back to his football home, to the Houston Texans. And I say that because, number one, the Houston Texans are a laughingstock in the NFL, and I do think he is going to heal that franchise. He is going to make that fan base want to come to Houston Texans games again and fill up NRG Stadium. Number two, I do think he's going to get the quarterback he wants in Bryce Young. And I do say that because he is not messing around with Davis Mills. I think he's going to rebuild that defense and make it hard-nosed again. I do think he will hire an offensive coordinator that's going to help with Bryce Young and his strengths. And I think DeMeco Ryans will hire a defensive coordinator that may have head coaching background to help him with that transition. Isaiah, I'll tell you, I really like this move for the Houston Texans. And I was the one that wanted DeMeco Ryans to go back to the Texans because of his familiarity with the McNairs. He doesn't have any familiarity with Nick Caserio, though. But the reason why I felt like that this needed to happen because Cal McNair really wanted somebody to help heal the organization and all that.
Bravo, Cal McNair, and bravo, Nick Caserio, man. You guys deserve a standing ovation for sure. The two laughing stocks in the NFL this past season, the Broncos and the Texans, both made Grand Slam hires, and this is a Grand Slam hire for sure. DeMeco Ryans is going to do a phenomenal job in Houston. He was the perfect candidate for them. Not only was he a great coach, he's a young, up-and-coming coach. He's a great defensive mind, but he's a guy that has connections to that city and to H-Town, and I think that he's the perfect coach that could be there for like 10, 15 years and be the legendary head coach that the Texans need. And, when you look at DeMeco Ryans, the defense, I think, the defense definitely needs a lot of help. I don't expect that defense to be good right away, but I expect that the defense will be a force to be reckoned with in about 3 years. But with Bryce Young there, I think Bryce Young will definitely benefit from DeMeco Ryans bringing in whom I believe will be the Shanahan-style offense because he comes from Kyle Shanahan's coaching tree. And I think that Bryce Young, under a Kyle Shanahan offense, he'll benefit greatly. It's kind of the same system that he's running at Alabama. Bryce Young is a phenomenal quarterback. He didn't have the great weapons at Bama, and he really did help save that team this past season. And DeMeco Ryans, with him there, he'll be able to change the culture. He's a no-nonsense coach. He's laid back. He's fun. He's very energetic. That's what you need to kickstart a rebuild and to power a rebuild through. So I love this hire by the Texans. Good for them for hiring DeMeco Ryans. And I applaud them because it is a Grand Slam move, the move that they made in Houston.
Well, I think DeMeco Ryans will be the one that will be calling the plays defensively. He'll hire a defensive coordinator, though. But if you talk about I'm looking at who I think is going to be offensive coordinator, he's going to likely bring Bobby Slowick with him to Houston as the offensive coordinator.
And I like that move because I think Bobby Slowick is a young and upcoming offensive mind. And I think that, he's a guy that he's not going to – I don't think the offense will be good right away because it will be Slowick's first time calling plays, but he's seen Kyle Shanahan do it. He has seen he's been in the room to develop or to design the plays. I think that it's going to be a great hire. It's a young team with a young coaching staff, and they'll learn and grow together, which, I think that will be very beneficial for the Texans.
Well, Slowick will be offensive coordinator, and then the quarterbacks coach that this article I'm reading is projecting is Rick I can't say his name, Rick Scangiaro.
Oh, it's that guy.
As the quarterbacks coach who worked with Fangio in Denver.
Yeah, and the problem is he's not really that good of a quarterback developer. So, Laurel, I know you're a big Bryce Young fan. You will not want him anywhere near Bryce Young because he can't develop young quarterbacks. I know he did really good with Nick Mullins, but Trey Lance was not goodly developed under him. You saw what happened after he left. Brock Purdy.
Basically, who will develop Bryce Young is Slowick. If
It'll be Slowick,
Ryans brings Slowick with him as offensive coordinator, but Rick Scangiaro probably won't have a say on that, but he will give Slowick the advice.
He'll give Slowick the advice, but if I'm the Texans, I will try to bring in a more seasoned quarterbacks coach to help with a young play caller.
And then defensive coordinator is Jeff Zonga from the Commanders, but I don't care who calls plays defensively for the Texans. I think it's DeMeco Ryans that's going to run the defense.
Oh, I agree. Everything on the defense will go through DeMeco Ryans. He's going to have final say on every play call, every play design, everything that's put out there. The personnel on defense, DeMeco Ryans, I believe, will have final say.
But you think Slowick? I think and then I also think Joe Woods, who was let go by Cleveland, he's probably going to join that staff too.
Yeah, he's got connections to DeMeco Ryans. I could see it.
And I think my pick for offensive coordinator for the Texans is Bobby Slowick. Although Nick Caley interviewed for that position, but I do think Nick Caley will stay in New England.
Nick Caley interviewed. I'm trying to also see who else interviewed.
The reason why I think it would be Caley because of the connection he has with Nick Caserio.
It could be him. I mean, Nick Caley deserves it. I want to see him get an offensive coordinator job. I think it's about time that he gets one. But I'm looking at it right now, Laurel. I'm trying to see.
Do you see?
If I was DeMeco Ryans. Yeah,
what were you saying again?
I think that if you're DeMeco Ryans, you know who I would hire, Laurel? You know who I would hire?
Who?
I would hire Todd Monken from Georgia. That guy has had a long history with having very explosive offenses, and we know he could develop quarterbacks. Look what he did with Stetson Bennett. He took Stetson Bennett to the next level.
Don't want Rick Scarlangelo there? Because I saw an article there, and they projected him to be the quarterbacks coach with Bobby Slowick as offensive coordinator.
And I think Bobby Slowick actually interviewed a couple of days ago. If I'm not
You know what? I think DeMeco Ryans brings Bobby Slowick with him as his offensive coordinator.
And I think that, that could be a really good move for them. I like Bobby Slowick. He's a very young coach. And, his dad coached in the NFL, the legendary Bob Slowick.
Yeah, I think so. And I do think that with Bryce Young at quarterback, which I think is likely that the Texans draft him either at 1 or 2, I think Bryce Young's going to have a great rookie year, and I cannot wait to see him in Houston and potentially throw lobs to John Mechie once he comes back from leukemia.
You know who I would hire though? I would hire Eric Bieniemy. That's the one guy.
We don't know that yet. We do not. Oh, who else?
Brian Griese is another one. That guy worked wonders with Brock Purdy and Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo this past season.
Brian Griese would be great under DeMeco Ryans, but we'll see about that. But anyways, here we got to talk about the Colts. We're staying in the AFC South. What is taking them so long when it comes to who their next head coach will be? They're going through a third round of interviews. I'm like, Jim Irsay, what are you doing, man? Who do you want? Like, is it Jeff Saturday, Aaron Glenn, Wink Martindale, or Eric Bieniemy? I still want and hope Eric Bieniemy is the next head coach of the Colts. But Isaiah, you may not like what I'll say here, but if the Colts hire Jeff Saturday, I'll still call the Colts the Fighting Jeff Saturdays if they retain him full time.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, to be honest with you.
Would you want to call the Colts the Fighting Jeff Saturdays if they keep him?
I probably would have to join you on that name. I probably would have to join you.
Yeah, the reason why I say that because I see the players seem to love Jeff Saturday and how great motivator he is, but I don't think he's had enough experience yet.
No, I don't either. And I don't think that he should be the head coach just because of that. I think that, you have other greatly qualified candidates that should get the job. I mean, for me, I want to see Don Martindale. That's the guy that I want to see. I think he deserves an opportunity, and he would fix that Colts defense. The only problem is the offense, which is a big issue for the Colts. But I think Martindale will be a culture changer, and also he'll be a guy that can develop that defense, and I think that he would be a great fit. Eric Bieniemy is another guy that should.
That's who I want. That's who I want as the next head coach of the Colts because of his connection to Chris Ballard.
Yeah, and he would be a great fit. He would run that Chiefs modern day offense, which is very successful right now in the NFL.
But the final decisions on who the next head coach of the Colts is, it's still Jim Irsay's decision. It's not Chris Ballard's at all.
No, it's not. And that's why I would not be shocked whatsoever if they hired Jeff Saturday, because that's the guy that Jim Irsay wants. That's the guy that he wants. And I think that for Jim Irsay, you gotta let your football people make those decisions, man. That's why you hired him, man. Jim Irsay should go back to drinking and gambling, because that's like, you gotta let your football guys make those decisions. Like, I like Jeff Saturday, but come on, man. Like, you hire Jeff Saturday, he will not be successful as a coach, and you're gonna have to fire him in like 2 years.
Does Jim Irsay want to do that or make a fool of himself, Isaiah? Dude, like Jim Irsay, he's impatient. He wants to win now. He wants a Lombardi trophy again.
Yeah, he wants a Lombardi trophy. And, I'm looking at the Colts like candidates that they're interviewing. I guess they're having their third round of head coaching interviews now.
Yeah, I'm like, why is he doing this?
I don't know. I don't know what to say. I think the Colts they're a poorly run franchise, sadly, Loro.
I really like this team. I mean, this team has a ton of talent, but Jim Irsay is just running a crap show there since the Peyton Manning retired and since Andrew Luck retired unexpectedly. It has been full of a crap show in Indianapolis because of you, Jim Irsay.
Yeah, well, I think Shane Steichen, I think he would be a good one for the Colts. Brian Callahan would be a great one, great choice. But you got to make a decision, man. You got to make a decision soon, and
because the combine is coming up and the Super Bowl is about to end. Because I'm kind of thinking, and I'm kind of thinking Jim Irsay's probably waiting until after the Super Bowl for him and Ballard to go with Eric Bieniemy.
I think Eric Bieniemy would actually be a really, really good fit for the Indianapolis Colts.
Here's what I think: if Eric Bieniemy leaves for a head coaching job with the Colts, I'll give you a scenario. I believe Andy Reid will bring Pat Shurmur as his offensive coordinator, so that he leaves Matt Nagy as his quarterback coach, and Pat Shurmur wouldn't call plays offensively. It's still the Andy Reid offense, even if Pat Shurmur were to take the offensive coordinator job with the Chiefs.
I just hope that the Colts don't make a fool of themselves.
I'm saying that if the Colts hire Bieniemy, I could see the Andy Reid hiring Pat Shurmur as the Chiefs offensive coordinator. That way you have the coaching tree reunite in Philly with Spagnuolo and Shurmur.
I mean, that could happen, but also remember they have Matt Nagy as the quarterbacks coach.
Yeah,
and
but I don't know if Andy Reid would want to promote him to offensive coordinator or just leave him at quarterbacks coach. I think Andy Reid should leave Matt Nagy at quarterbacks coach.
I think Matt Nagy does a good job with the quarterbacks coach anyways. I don't know why you need to mess with it.
Yeah, you don't need to mess with Matt Nagy in his role, but really,
No.
if you look at it in the end, for who runs the offense in Kansas City, it's Andy Reid. It's his offense.
Exactly. It's
And
Andy Reid's
even if
offense.
Pat Shermer or even Matt Nagy gets promoted to offensive coordinator, he won't call plays. It's Andy Reid that does it.
Yep.
So that's what I think here. But as what you're saying about the Colts, you would want Bieniemy to be the Colts' next head coach. But if it's Jeff Saturday, then I would go crazy with the fighting Jeff Saturdays for every game they win. Or
Well, I want either Don Martindale or Eric Bieniemy. One of those two coaches.
I would go with. I'm still sticking with Eric Bieniemy. But now we got to talk about the Cardinals here. I mean, do you think they should favor Brian Flores as their next head coach?
I think when you look at the Cardinals, I think so, because he has that relationship with the GM, and it's very important.
Yeah, with Monty Ossenfort.
Yep, and it's very important for the GM and the head coach to have a good working relationship, and he's got a relationship already with Monty Ossenfort. So I think it would be a good hire, and I think Brian Flores, he deserves another head coaching hire, or he gets opportunity again. And the only thing he needs though is he needs a good offensive mind to be his offensive coordinator. It can't be like, in Miami, he had like 4 or 5.
He had 2, Eric Studsville and George Godsey.
Yeah, but remember, he also had Chan Gailey before that, and then he had
God.
Else. Yeah, like you can't have one coordinator every year. You got to have one and just stick with it. And I think that with Brian Flores, it would be good for the Cardinals, since they need a no-nonsense coach, because I feel like last year was too laid back under Cliff Kingsbury.
If you talk about this question for you about the Cardinals, is Kyler Murray to blame for the Arizona Cardinals' lengthy head coaching search?
I feel like in a way, yes, but it's not his fault though, because he's injured.
Because there are some candidates that I've heard on a report that are not too high on Kyler Murray, but I'm like, dude, come on. You got to work with him. You got to make him even better than the Kingsbury offense.
Well, I think for me, the big concern is the injury. He's dealing with that ACL, and a lot of people are saying that he's not even going to be back until midway through the season. So that's a big concern of your head coach. But if you're the Cardinals, I think that Brian Flores would be a great fit. I think personally, since I thought Sean Payton would have been a good fit for them. I think Sean Payton would have been a good fit.
Anyways, we lost Isaiah here. He was saying amongst the lines that Sean Payton would have been a good fit with the Arizona Cardinals. But I picked Brian Flores to be the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals because I think he deserves another shot. And if you look at it, I could see him bringing in Matt Patricia as his defensive coordinator. Who do I think he goes with an offensive coordinator? So Isaiah accidentally closed out here, so we are going to resend him the link. But I think his offensive coordinator pick, it might be someone in Miami or something like that. He's got to pick somebody that I think would really help with Kyler Murray when he comes back here. So sending the link to Isaiah again here. But also don't forget, Extra Point will be next week. We will have a Super Bowl show, and we are going to make our picks for who wins the big game next Sunday between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. But anyways, here now, folks, we are waiting for him to rejoin us, as usual. And we just sent him the link here because he accidentally closed out. But we were talking about who the next head coach of the Arizona Cardinals is and and who should be their offensive coordinator and all that. Defensive coordinator should be Matt Patricia. Special teams coordinator, he might keep somebody from the staff last year. That way, he has some of that. It could help with the transition here, which I'm thinking, if you look at the Cardinals and their coaches here, I do think that Jeff Rodgers will stay as the special teams coordinator and assistant head coach. I think he retains him, but I do think he brings in Patricia as his defensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator, he probably should go outside the box or something like that. I don't know who. It might be Nick Haley. I would like to see Nick Haley be the offensive coordinator for the Cardinals here. So Isaiah, we're going to get him back on now. So Isaiah was talking about the potential Brian Flores staff in Arizona. I predicted Nick Haley as OC and then defensive coordinator Matt Patricia.
Well, sorry about cutting off earlier. I accidentally cut off the tab, but like I was saying, I think Brian Flores is the man in Arizona. I think that he needs to be the guy in Arizona. Nick Haley, offensive coordinator, I like that because you bring in that Patriots-style offense, and you have the Patriots way still in Arizona. Another couple candidates that I could see, Matt Patricia being defensive coordinator is another one because of the connections to Brian Flores, and he wants like the all-out Patriot way. But I think that Brian Flores would be, in my opinion, I think a great choice just because he learned from Mike Tomlin this year. He knows, how to be successful now other than the Patriot way. And I think that's very important because I think that for Brian Flores that, he was too much into the Patriot way. But that's why a lot of people didn't really like him in Miami. But with him having with the Steelers and learning their culture and maybe implementing some of their culture to Arizona, if he does get the job, I think that would be a very, very good for Brian Flores.
Yeah, and I think Kyler Murray is the guy for the Cardinals, but I want to see the right head coach work with him.
I agree. I think he's the right guy, but I want to see how he is post ACL because remember,
you're saying is that you think Murray is the future of Arizona, and he's still their guy, a quarterback, but you just need to see what he can do post ACL.
Yes. Exactly.
I think he's gonna come back even stronger. I have faith in him still.
I do, but I don't know because a lot of these quarterbacks that have had ACLs, they've come back great, but there's also been guys that come back and never look the same. And remember, Kyler Murray depends on his mobility, running around. Look at Jimmy Garoppolo. Before he was mobile. He wasn't that mobile, but he was mobile. But after the ACL injury, it took away his athletic abilities. And that's what, if that happens to Kyler Murray and he has to be just a pocket passer, I think that could severely hinder Kyler Murray.
You're right. But I think that is the case too. But anyways, here I said that we're not going to waste our time talking about the Pro Bowl games here, but we're going to head into final thoughts here. So announcements here. We have Sports Weekly coming back on Sunday. We will have stuff about the NBA trade deadline, some baseball thrown in for you, but Batter Up is going to be coming back this month. As I have a date, it's going to be in late February, right before the start of spring training games is when we'll have Batter Up and when we will predict who will be winning each division in baseball, managers on the hot seat, and also talking about who's going to win each award and also which team you're excited about heading into the upcoming baseball season, which I cannot wait for a fun baseball season, and talk about some of the new changes like balanced schedules and all that, which I really like, but also extra point on the extra point next week. We are going to have a Super Bowl show, and I cannot wait to do that. Get everybody's picks on the IM6 and MI6 teams on who is going to win the Super Bowl between the Eagles and the Chiefs. And then we might have more head coaching news for you on Extra Point next week. So, Isaiah, what's your final thoughts?
My final thoughts is that it was a great show. I want to first start by thanking Chardot, Ben. Thank you, Ben, for hopping on. I know you had to go to bed, but thank you for hopping on. Edward as well. Thank you to all of our fans for tuning in. I know Casey King liked our video, so thank to him for tuning in as well. But, it was great to be back on the show. We haven't done a show in a long time due to our busy schedules at work. But it was great to do another program. And, I want to thank the biggest thank you, Loro, I think that I want to give, and I think that we both are thankful for, is one, Kyrie Irving, because the Lakers season was down in the dumps. The Lakers season wasn't going anywhere, but today Kyrie Irving shocked everybody and threw a major wrench into the Nets' plans, threw a major curveball to everybody, and threw the Lakers the biggest lifeline of all time. And if Rob Pelinka and Jeanie Buss gets Kyrie Irving to pair with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, the Dodgers won a championship. The Rams won the Super Bowl last year. This year will be the Lakers' turn if they get Kyrie Irving.
The Lakers have been, if you look at it, Isaiah, they've been proving me wrong in some sorts, but they have a great shot at making it into the play-in tournament.
They do, and that's why they need to get Kyrie Irving. And Loro, I know this is
Kyrie Irving. If the Lakers get Kyrie Irving, which we'll talk about on Sports Weekly, I could admit we're championship caliber.
Oh, yeah, that's the player we need to get. I don't care about the 2027, 2029 picks.
No, I don't care about that either. I don't really care about that.
Exactly.
I want to win now.
I want to win now, too.
Anyways, for Isaiah, Loro signing off for now. And Isaiah, I'll see you on Sunday for Sports Weekly.
Yes, sir.
And we leave you with this.
Chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophies. I can drive the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it deep. I ain't choose the gang chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophies. I can drive the lane, I can shoot the three. I can run 100 yards, I can throw it deep. I got what it take to be a champ. Ball's life, you should come and join the camp. Title